just look at the Silicon Valley. Look at the startup scene around the world. You'll hear of all these security companies coming up that are there's all sorts of AI powered, insights, predictive, whether they're going into logs and your CI/CD logs and your DevOps, and then you'll have Palo Alto Networks doing this, and then someone else doing that, and there's just so many different. There's a stack. There's a security stack.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't think anyone's painted a picture, but at what point do you have to understand the security stack and what's happening? That's a hard one to wrap my head around. That we have to do that too, right?
Sure. I keep saying it's the job wouldn't exist without all of this, right? The very job of chief information security officer would not exist without the technology development that has led to this job existing in the first place, right? It just wouldn't be here. I'm just trying to say, in terms of the thinking, the focus of understanding of what your role is in the organization, it's not a technology role. But sure, of course, you need to understand, generally speaking, what's a reasonable approach to these things. But people ask me this all the time, right? Let me ask you: is there a difference, from my perspective, between Checkpoint and Palo Alto? Not at all. There's one key difference as far as I'm concerned, and it's not a technology-related one. It's, does your administrator that's going to manage the firewall, do they feel more comfortable with the UI from Palo Alto or the UI from Checkpoint? Because guess what? If they're comfortable with one and not the other, just buy that one, because it's going to get used better. Similarly, with all these things in the CI/CD pipeline, if it has a friendly user interface that your developers are going to use, I couldn't care less about the technology. They all kind of do the same thing. One does a little bit of a thing there, absolutely 100%. One might do a little bit better in here, and one might do a little bit better there. But as far as I'm concerned, if the developers are not going to use it, then it's pointless, useless, and it doesn't matter what the technology looks like. The technology is immaterial. So if I'm evaluating products, the first question I want to ask, people never include this. It drives me nuts. You look at the ROI analysis, they go into pretending that they do all these business exercises to pick the right expenditures. It's all pretending. I've never seen the question, how comfortable is your administrator, the person that's going to engage with this dashboard? How comfortable are they with using this dashboard? Do they happen to know this dashboard from a previous job? Make use of that. If that is true, and they liked using it before, right? Since this is not a key component of your business, of your core business, this is just an adjunct, it's a supporting role, then, oh God, you need to give this a really high scoring in your evaluation. Because guess what? If they're comfortable with it and they're used to it, when it's more or less equivalent to the other ones, then by all means, stop looking at all the tiny little differences and trying to extract the last 2% of technology performance. And remember that the key role of that technology that you're buying is lost completely if it's not being used. This matters. This matters so much more. And so, yes, of course, there's thousands and thousands of security vendors. Do you know why? Do you know why they keep coming up? I love doing this mental exercise.
Well, part of the answer is because VCs love to need them in their portfolio, and enterprises need that checkbox. But really, why?
But it's fear. It's fear, right? It's all fear-based. People are afraid of security. They still don't understand it, but they understand they have to have it. And so it's a wonderful green field for technology entrepreneurs to come and invent these new things that are really just rehashing of other things with tiny little changes, like 2-degree changes, and then claim that they lead to multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. You know what's really funny? Go through this mental exercise. Do a back of the paper napkin thing. Take the number of security vendors out there, 20,000 or so, right? Then multiply that by the market opportunity for each different one, right? They all claim things like $50 billion market opportunity, right? And see what number you get to. Because what the number you get to is larger than the entire global GDP for the entire year by a fair amount. And if you're arguing to me, if your argument is that the security space is worth more than the entire global GDP on an annual basis, then you're kind of smoking something. So this is all an attempt. And this is the beautiful part of this. This is how all these things get tied together. What's fear? It's a psychological response. This is how I tie this back for people. That's why I say security is, learn how people behave, learn how people react to fear. and you'll understand security a heck of a lot better than somebody that understands system vulnerabilities to the nth degree. Now, you might understand system vulnerabilities to the nth degree. It might help you a little bit in your ability to kind of put all these parameters together, but that's not the key.